Hi, you guys. This is LQ from Coupled and Cultured. I'm coming to you guys today because it is our third wedding anniversary. And in honor of this amazing milestone, I definitely want to talk a little bit about our destination wedding. So I do have a video on here that talks about the preparation for the wedding, but there was no follow-up. Like, I never followed up with you guys on YouTube to let you know how things went. So here I am today. So this video is going to be talking about our venue, what took place, and whether or not I regret or do not regret having our destination wedding. So stay tuned and I'll jump right into it. Alright, so y'all know me. You know I'm gonna have my notes right here, so you might see me looking down periodically, but I do want to stay on task because, you know, I don't want to get off topic. But our destination wedding. So first things first, what was the location? Where did it happen? So we had our destination wedding in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and this took place in the summer of 2020 in the height of the pandemic. We got married on July 7th, 2020, and it was amazing. Like, I think back of it with very fond memories. We rented a villa. So a lot of people who do destination weddings choose to do it at a resort, more specifically an all-inclusive resort. But we opted for St. Thomas because we didn't want to put the pressure of getting passports on our family members who did not have one or could not get one or just felt like it would be too taxing. So we just felt like it would be easier, being that people are going to be spending money to come to the wedding. Let's just pick a place where they don't have the added expense of getting a passport. Now, would I suggest for any brides to do that? No. So if I had to look back, I wouldn't make decisions like that based on trying to accommodate people in that way, because in our specific situation, the people that didn't have passports that we were trying to look out for, that we thought, oh, we didn't want to add that expense to their plate, they didn't come anyway. So just make sure as a bride and groom who is having a destination wedding that you make choices that make sense for you and your immediate family, like your kids, your parents, and things like your siblings, because things like that can happen to where you accommodate other people and they can't come or they choose not to come for whatever reason. Initially, as you see in my other destination wedding video, we had chose the Villa Serenita as our venue, which was considered as the wedding house at this time, and it was beautiful. We only have pictures to go by, but you know me, I did my extensive research and I looked at a lot of videos of past brides who had their weddings there, and we loved it. We were going to use the place as not only a wedding venue, but we also wanted the wedding party to stay there for the duration of the trip. So we would all be there. We would be there on the wedding day. We wouldn't have to be tracking people down and figuring out where everyone was, and it could kind of be turned into like a family trip as well. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic and what I would consider as the unprofessionalism of the people that I was working with, we got canceled 30 days out. Now, a lot of brides had to cancel at this time because you know how crazy it was when COVID hit, and this is in 2020. But I was in constant communication with my wedding planner at the time, and and she was in concert with the person who owned the villa. So I never had direct access to him. It was through her. She was like serving as a property manager, I assume, because I had to do those dealings through her. But, you know, through email, I was told at one point that he was canceling us. We had 30 days left before the event, and he was canceling because he no longer wanted to be in the villa business. So our cancellation was not tied to COVID because the island was actually open to guests at that time. We had the green light and we had already paid, you know, for everything. So that choice, which was against, you know, contract technically, really put us in a bind with 30 days left into the wedding and everything else being like just so high stress. So we had to find another villa because we were not just looking for a venue for the wedding. We also had to find a space that could accommodate us for the duration of our trip, because remember, we were staying there for the time that we were on the island. So imagine how I felt as I'm trying to navigate and like do last minute things for this wedding, and to lose your venue and the place you stay for reasons that were not really allowable by the contract. It was ridiculous. I won't go into detail, but God blessed us, because I started doing extensive research and I happened to find a villa that was perfect. And ironically, this villa never came up on my search when I was initially looking. It felt like God, like, just, even though it was always in existence, it just felt like it wasn't something that I saw before as an option. And then when this happened to us and we got canceled on at the last minute, it was like I found it. It was at a good price point. It was a little more expensive than the other, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But it was perfect, and it could accommodate all of us. And visually, it just was so different. I absolutely loved it. And this was Spirit on the Water. The owner was amazing. She was based in New York City like we were, but she spent some of her time on in the Virgin Islands, and she was amazing and so accommodating. So that was a blessing that we were able to get, you know, another villa. So setbacks. Of course, the unprofessional cancellation at the last minute. I would never use that wedding planner again, or recommend anyone to use her, because it didn't work out for me. Now, other brides probably have used her and had a great experience, but because I didn't like the way that I was treated during this very stressful process. And you know, I won't go into detail, but we used the blue sky ceremony, and I did not enjoy the experience. I didn't even write a review. I've typed it up and I didn't even post. Every time I get into it, I get so angry. So I didn't like the treatment that we had. Personally, this is my personal experience. It does not represent everyone, you know, but I didn't like how we were treated. So that was definitely a setback. COVID in itself was a setback. Who would have known that March 2020 COVID would happen? Well, would shut everything down, and then it would put our wedding on the line. Definite setback. And then all of the last minute changes, it had me about to have a hernia, trying to keep up with all these last minute changes and make it work. So I just think that all brides, especially if you're planning a wedding in a location that's different from yours, you need a serious set of like people around you that you could lean on for support and vent to. You might even need a therapist, girl, because it was tough and it could get tough. And let's take a world global pandemic out of it. Just dealing with people and, you know, and all of the things that come with planning an event, you know, it gets crazy. Now, what were the wins from this destination wedding that we had in St. Thomas? Well, I have several. First of all, my caterer was a godsend. We used passion fruit chefs in the St. Thomas Virgin Islands, and the owner was amazing. Like when we got canceled on and we were struggling trying to find a new venue, once we did find a new venue, she was such a support that she did not have to be. She was able to answer my questions. She went out of her way, you guys, she offered to go visit the villa, because I hadn't seen it before. She offered to go visit this villa for me, and call me and do a video so that I can see how it looks in, you know, visually, not just based off the pictures, because minimally they didn't have many pictures online of the villa as much as I preferred. She went there in person. She's like planned out where she would put anything, and as she's on WhatsApp, we're doing videos. She's like, I can put this here, I can set up the bar here, we can do the tables here, and this, that, and the third. And she pretty much served in the capacity of a wedding planner for me. Like the fact that she offered to do that, and that was not a part of her job, and it wasn't required of her. It was just so much compassion, and she was just showed up in such a great way for me. Just as a client, she felt like family in that moment because everything was so stressful. So passion fruit chefs, top tier. Our officiant, he was amazing. He was funny. I'll tag everybody's name and like their websites too. So if you guys want to like frequent, go to their website, see who they are, and probably have a conversation with them if you want to get married in the Virgin Islands. I'm going to tag everybody. As well, our photographer was patient and professional. You know, everything was running a little bit behind schedule. And you know, when you have photography, they kind of schedule out everything, when this look is going to be you know, photographed, when this look will be photographed, what's going to be happening here during cocktail hour, this will be photographing this. And my group, we got off schedule, of course, and she was so patient. Loved it. I loved her. The venue was absolutely gorgeous for the wedding and just for our stay. That was a huge win. Another one, it was a built-in family trip. That was top tier, because before and after the wedding, we really got to enjoy ourselves, enjoy each other, and just have an amazing time. I can't wait. I'm gonna put in like clips of this villa and the wedding as well, so you guys can see. This villa we booked the whole thing, so it was like the top portion that had rooms and access to like living room and like the pool, the infinity pool. There was a tree house that some of our guests stayed in. Then down below there was another area that some of our guests stayed in. I can't wait to show you guys. This is so dope. It was beautiful. Another win was that our travel crew was born. So a lot of people we had never traveled with, we did so, and we ended up doing subsequent trips together, like the big trip we did for my husband for his 50th birthday. And it was like, we had so much fun there in the St. Thomas that we was like, we got to do it again. We got to do it again. Everybody was so hyped. We also had a dope barber that we found. I'm going to link him as well. He came to the villa. He cut hair for us, my husband, my son. Like, he really just showed up and made them feel like their handsome selves and got them ready. And he came to us. We loved that. We loved our DJ Eric Snow. We loved the people who did my hair and makeup, Sugar and Spice, our videographer team, the rentals, the lady, the wonderful lady that we rented. We had to rent an arch from her husband was the Officiant, so I'll tag her and him below as well. They were amazing, very professional. Now our planning steps, we definitely used a budget planner to help us along the way. When I was looking for a wedding planner, I didn't really want a planner. I wanted more of a day of coordinator, because I had a vision for what I wanted. When I reached out to the young lady that I did attempt to use, she said that she didn't do day of coordination. She did full service planning, but it would be the same cost either way, even if she did do day of. So we booked her for our as our wedding planner. It was a benefit at the beginning, because at first I never had planned a wedding, so visually Brian had picked the colors, and they were colors that I wouldn't necessarily pick. So our colors were orange, royal blue. He wanted orange and royal blue, so I felt like those are very strong colors, and I needed other colors to kind of soften that up. So I went with like white, khaki, beige, you know, burlap, to kind of soften that orange and, you know, royal blue. And she was really able to kind of like, we did like some little inspiration pictures together on our one of our few phone calls, and it kind of got me away from looking at it as like I had to have these strong, vibrant pops of orange and blue everywhere. So after having that conversation, I kind of went with my own thing. So I feel like after having that initial conversation with her, and just, you know, her being like the go-between between us and the villa owner, aside from that, I kind of felt like I kind of did everything myself, which ended up being a blessing, you know, which I'll talk more about, you know, later, and kind of give you brides a tip on, if you're doing a destination wedding, the ways in which I recommend you deal with it if you're not dealing with an all-inclusive resort that has an on-site coordinator. Okay, so most couples opt to use an all-inclusive, which is an amazing choice. However, we didn't really have that option because we were on the Virgin Islands, which is still a United States territory. And I think they only have one all-inclusive resort there, and it really wasn't our cup of tea. So we kind of had to we didn't have really packaged like vendors and things like that, the option of that, as most brides do who choose all-inclusive. So we had to pay a lot of things separately, which was expensive, and I didn't really have much to go from. Like, in terms of my family and close friends, this is the first destination wedding that I had experience with, so I didn't really know what the right price points were. I just was going off of other brides and their experiences using vendors in the Virgin Islands. I don't even think that we had an initial budget, but well, I think we did. I think we said 30,000. We were going to start with 30,000, and we were gifted, you know, some money to help with our wedding too from my mom, and so we had a budget of 30,000. And I want to say by the end we ended up paying close to 40, and that's because we got canceled on at the last minute, so we incurred a lot of expenses that we didn't anticipate. But it is what it is. So the way that we paid $30,000, because we got engaged on Christmas Day in 2018, and the wedding was July 7, 2020. So we had about a year and a half to plan. And I think that we had booked that venue by January. Once we came up with a date, you know, if you know me, you know, I'm going to I'm gonna hit the track running like a nosebleed. So I was on it. But we had came up with a plan that we were going to really tackle everything as we go. And we used our income taxes. So mine, he had like 3 jobs at one point. You know, he was working overnight. Not only did I choose to work this, you know, do an extra job in the summer, but I was doing like side gig work, remote work. Like, we was hustling. I mean, listen, 2019 leading into 2020 as well was grind mode for us. Like, we was really busting our butts to pay for this wedding because it was really important to us, and we wanted it to be like a movie. And we were able to save a lot of money to go towards the wedding and really tackle that. So once we had the wedding, we didn't really have any debt. We probably had like a few things that we had put on credit cards that we were able to clear out before that year's end. So we had the benefit of being able to really pay out and knock out everything as we went, and that was such a blessing for us. Now, a few last minute tips that I would give to any bride and groom, or any bride and bride, or groom and groom who is planning a destination wedding. Number 1, be prepared for usual and unusual setbacks. So the usual setbacks is for people to drop out of your wedding party, people to say they're going to go and don't go, people to not pay the deposit to the last minute, things like that. Usual setbacks. But the unusual setbacks could be venue change at the last minute, something going wrong with your dress at alterations. I didn't even mention how they canceled my alterations appointment because of COVID, but whatever. But anything that you would consider huge, kind of mentally prepare for that so that you won't feel devastated when things like this happen, and you have like a plan B, you know, to fall back on. Another thing, budget religiously. Use an app or some type of online tool, which is what we did, and try to stick to it as best as you can, because as you start to see more things that you want and things that people suggest to you, the budget could get out of hand very fast, and you really don't want that if you have other financial goals to attend to outside of the wedding. Number 3, if renting a villa for others to stay in, not just as the wedding venue, then I give you 2 options. Either pay for everybody, pay for the whole villa by yourself and then allow them to stay, or choose people who won't cancel on you. or people who won't cancel and then leave you hanging. You know, they'll still cover their share. So for us, we did the villa, and it was like, you're gonna stay here. We're gonna split the cost for the villa, because this is more like if we were getting a hotel. So we felt like it was fair. We paid the event fees, of course, but in terms of the stay itself, we split it with everyone who was there. Had we chosen a bunch of people who would flake on us or who couldn't go, because we did lose people who didn't go, who said they would go and they backed out, that falls on you. So definitely pick people who you can count on, or who, if they have to cancel on you, they won't leave you hanging. Because if I had to cancel and it wasn't enough time to do it, where the person can find someone else, I would still pay my portion. I wouldn't just leave a bride hanging like that. Also, budget for food and preparation, because if you're staying in a villa, there's no all-inclusive package. So luckily we budgeted for food. So we had a surplus of, you know, food and money to go towards grocery shopping, food, and everybody's willing to help prepare food. So we kind of alternated who's going to cook dinner this night, breakfast this day, you know, so forth. So that really was good for us. Buy as much of your own decor as you can if possible to avoid my issue. Really, I didn't have an issue in this area because we got canceled on. Had I not been such a control freak, people make fun of me and they'd be like, oh, you always want to control everything. Yes, I do, because I wanted to look the way I wanted to look, and I wanted to end up and be the way I wanted, the way I envisioned it in my head. And because of that, your girl bought her own napkins, her own plate chargers, her own name plates, her own centerpieces, her own decor, her own tablecloths, pretty much everything. Anything that I didn't rent from the caterer, which is the chairs and the tables. I brought pretty much everything. And because of that, like, if I would have leaned on the wedding planner to provide all of this for me, when she canceled on me at the last minute, quit on me, I would have been screwed, because I would have had to get all of these things at the last minute or find someone who could provide it for me at the last minute. So thank God I was such a control freak and had all my stuff with me, which I brought right on the plane with me, and all my extra luggage to St. Thomas. So that was a godsend. And last but certainly not least, slow down and enjoy your wedding as much as you can, because people do not lie when they say it goes so fast. My wedding, I can remember like big moments and I can remember bits and pieces, but ultimately it was a blur. It happened so fast. The day was over so quickly, and I just wish I could go back and experience it all again. So when people tell you that, take it to heart and just sit there and like remind yourself as on your wedding day to kind of stop and take it in. Stop, take it in. That's what I wish I would have done more of. All right, you guys, so that is it. I have given all I could give to describe the emotional experience of planning this destination wedding that we had in the U.S. Virgin Islands on St. Thomas. And I'm definitely gonna be putting more pictures at the end so you could see how things turned out. Thank you for listening to me rant and rave about the things I did not like, the things I did like, and I hope that this can help any of the brides who are currently planning a destination wedding. Until next time, I hope that you guys have a great day, and to all the brides out there, congratulations, honey. Enjoy. All right, ciao.